Well, under fire, literally, at least down in Atlanta. And I thought it was a good time to bring in our friend Rob O'Donnell. Of course, he's a radio show host on WILK in Pennsylvania, but he's also a former cop in New York and now a law enforcement expert. Rob, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Larry.
Let's start with Georgia. This was a terrorist act. There's no doubt about it. I mean, this was Antifa-led, even though Christopher Wray denies Antifa even exists. And all the experts down there recognize that this was planned, it was coordinated. Do we need to know anything else about what's going on with the cops down there and the fact that they have been in the crosshairs, sadly, with the support of the elected officials down there?
Yeah, and this just isn't the police. This is a first responder training facility that's going to house their fire academy and their police academy. So it's a public safety academy that they're attacking. And it's no doubt a terrorist act. It was coordinated. These are masked individuals from around the nation and the world. I believe there was someone from France and someone from Canada also arrested at this event. And of course, a Southern Poverty Law Center lawyer who was also arrested for terrorist acts.
Yeah, and it's funny, I haven't seen as much coverage in the media about this attack. You know, if this was a demonstration in a major city in response to an officer-involved shooting, it would be wall-to-wall coverage. CNN would have sent everybody down there to report live on the scene. But since it's a police department and first responder training facility, let's just look the other way. I mean, they've picked sides in this discussion, and they're not on the sides of cops.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's replace this training facility development with an abortion clinic somewhere in any city in America and change that and see what the reaction would be by the mainstream media. You would have every outlet across the world highlighting it.
Yeah, that's very well said, well pointed out. And this is just another reason why police departments in every major city in this country right now, I believe, are having huge recruitment problems. I know here in Washington, in New York, in Atlanta, Chicago, they are understaffed and they can't get new people to be cops because this is how they're treated.
Yeah, and no doubt, this is exactly what's going on in our law enforcement, this callous atmosphere that started with the defund the police. The second wave of that was hiring these progressive ADAs and district attorneys that Soros has pushed from around the country. That'll take years to replace now. And now you see the last of it, lowering standards and recruiting people who shouldn't be police officers to begin with, so they can point at the bad deeds that these police officers who should never have the job and say, look, we told you so.
Rob, you're the perfect person to talk to about this because you know a thing or two about law enforcement as a former cop. You were also in New York during not only 9/11, but also the World Trade Center bombing of the early 90s. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene from Georgia has said that it's time for the federal government, past time for the federal government, to declare Antifa as a terrorist organization. Would you agree on that? Because I know you don't throw around that phrase too lightly. Terrorism means something. It means something very important to you.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%. This group meets the criteria for domestic terrorism. I mean, look at the groups that we named, domestic terrorists in the past, the Weather Underground, the Black Panthers. I mean, they are doing no different in this day and age, and everyone's turning a blind eye to it and letting it occur.
I'd love to turn your sights back up to New York because your pal, the mayor, Eric Adams, who I know, gosh, he was a cop with you right at the same time. Yeah, you ask him, and he'll let you know how he was a cop. You guys walked the beat a lot together, did you, Eric? He makes it sound like he saw it all.
Yeah, I passed him in the desk in the office when we were going out to do actual police work quite often.
Just wanted to let you get a shot in there. He said, crime is still a problem in New York and stores are getting robbed. And he's figured out what the problem is. It's store owners who are allowing people into their stores with COVID masks on. Now, I'm sorry, my head's about to explode. This is Bill de Blasio and Andrew Cuomo's New York, where you were wrestled to the ground and handcuffed if you were walking alone on the sidewalk without a mask. And now Eric Adams, instead of saying, yeah, maybe the cops should be able to arrest people, maybe our DA should actually put people behind bars. No, you, the store owner, you're at fault because you still let people wear masks.
Yeah, I mean, this just shows the ridiculously of his administration as far as his knowledge of law enforcement. What's not being touted and what's being done at the same time as this is getting the attention is the police and the transit system have started to write tickets and started to get aggressive with the small offenses of jumping the turnstiles. And what did they notice? That crime is dropping dramatically in our subways because they're addressing the little quality of life things. I believe we used to call that broken windows, but they've kind of thrown that to the wayside. but that's not getting to the attention. And crime in our transit system is starting to drop specifically because of that. What people like myself and law enforcement professionals who actually worked in police have been saying all along.
And when Rudy Giuliani as mayor and Bernie Kerik as police commissioner, when they instituted similar policies, they were fascists. They were racist fascists, if I remember right. But this is pretty remarkable that they've been beating that. You know, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure observers during the pandemic started pointing out that if it becomes a customary for everybody to wear a face covering when they're walking down the street, that's going to make things really easy for criminals. I mean, it doesn't take a scientist to figure this out.
That's what a New York City administration under Eric Adams has done, made it easy for criminals.
Yeah. I'd love to turn your sights down to our southern border, though, too, because I know you've been raising the alarm about these drug cartels and about how they basically have taken over these border cities now, and Americans are dying as they cross the border into Mexico. It's funny how when illegals cross the border into America, they're given health care, they're ushered to the hospital if they want to have a baby, they're given food and protection. If an American goes the other way and goes to Mexico, they're going to get kidnapped and murdered. What should our response be? Because it sure looks like Mexico, the government there, they have surrendered some of these cities to these criminal gangs.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to sit down and have lunch with Tom Homan, former director of ICE at CPAC this past weekend, and he was quite blunt about it. The cartels have operational control of our border. It is time we up the standards and bring our military in to deal with this. This is a foreign terrorist organization that's working with our border and making the money off of that transport into the U.S., both personnel, both smuggling, both hostage taking, and drug.
So what does that look like, though? I mean, last time we tried to cooperate on the border with law enforcement, we ended up running guns down there under Eric Holder. Do you have any faith in this administration? Or maybe we should let Greg Abbott and Attorney General Ken Paxton in Texas actually handle this on their own?
No, I actually think this should be above that. Our special warfare should be doing operations in Mexico, taking out these cartel leaders and letting it be known that if you harm Americans, we're coming for you. And not a DOJ issue, not a law enforcement issue. This should be a special operations military issue to let these cartels send a clear message.
Lord knows if this was Al-Qaeda or ISIS or some terrorist group down on our border killing Americans, you would think that we would have a robust response like that. What do you make of the president of Mexico warning Joe Biden? I can't remember the Mexican president ever warning an American president about anything other than maybe put on some extra sunscreen when you go to Cabo. I mean, that takes a lot of hubris. What's with the president of Mexico warning us about protecting our own citizens?
Yeah, it just goes to show the weakness of this administration. We're not taken seriously by one of our closest neighbors of Mexico. And it's time they start taking us seriously because they have a lot to lose if we stop going there, if we stop sending, our products there and stop with our trade there.
Right. Yeah, exactly. But sadly, we have no faith. There's literally no faith in this White House to be able to actually manage this and protect our citizens when they go south of the border. All right, we got to leave it there. Rob O'Donnell, great stuff. As always, I know you've got great contacts with law enforcement at the highest levels. Please send them our best. We love them. We support them. And they don't hear that enough, God knows. Thanks, Rob. There's more to come on O'Connor Tonight. You are watching Salem.